The noted author John Klinger tells a true story about a man who was all alone in a fancy hotel room. Seems that the man was in a state of deep depression. He was so depressed that particular night that he couldn't even bring himself to go downstairs to eat at the restaurant with his friends. He was a powerful man, a chairman of a large shipping company, but at this moment, he was absolutely overwhelmed by the pressures and the demands of his life. And so he was lying there on this large, lonely bed, far from home, wallowing in self-pity. Then, on that particular night, lying on this hotel bed, he craters. He hits the bottom, filled with anxiety, completely immobilized, paralyzed by emotional despair. He moans out loud, "Life isn't even worth living. I wish I was dead." And then he wonders, what does God think when he hears him talking that way? So speaking aloud again, he says, "God, it is all a joke, right? Life is nothing but a joke." Now suddenly it occurs to the man that this is the first time he has talked to God since he was a little boy. He's silent for a moment. He begins to pray, and then what happened was this. He says, I just talked out loud about what a mess my life was and how tired I was, and how much I wanted things to be different in my life. And this is what happened. A voice. I actually heard a voice, and the voice said, "It doesn't have to be that way." That was all. Well, he went home and he told his wife about what has happened, and he said, could that have been God? And she says, "Well, I don't know. My brother's a minister. Go talk to him." And so he goes and he talks to his brother-in-law. He says, I heard this voice, and it was speaking to me, and it was more real than any voice I've ever heard. Could that be God? And the minister said, "Well, duh. Well, duh, of course. This is God's message to you, but to all of us." And the voice you heard was saying exactly what the Bible is all about. That's the whole Bible in a nutshell. Duh, yeah, that was God. So this is the bottom line of the Bible. And it is why Jesus came into the world, to save us, to deliver us, to free us, to change us, and to show us. Doesn't have to be that way. In today's beautiful 8th chapter from Luke, Christ walks into this man's tormented life, a man overwhelmed with demons, a madman whose life is coming apart at the seams, and Jesus turns it around for him. He gives him a new beginning, a new start, a new birth. I think you heard that at the beginning of the story, it sounds like a horror story. He's wide-eyed, adrenaline-filled madman comes running, shrieking out of the tomb. He's so unbalanced. He's convinced that he is being held captive by a legion of demons who are pulling and jerking him in every direction. This is an eerie, grim, suspenseful, frightening situation. You know, Jesus and his disciples had just come from this wild storm on the sea. You would think that would be enough. They must be exhausted, but they set foot on the land. You'd think that would feel mighty good. You know, finally they're on land. But just as they come out of the boat, they encountered a different kind of storm. They hear strange sounds coming from the tomb, shrieks, growls, screams, moans, the rattling of chains, and then suddenly a horrifying sight, a madman in tattered clothes, bruised, dirty, bloody, battered with pieces of chains dangling from his arms and ankles, comes running and screaming directly toward them. Now I ask you something. What would you have done in that situation? This was a perilous place, a blood-curdling moment, a dangerous, powerful, berserk man charging them. I pretty much know what I would have done. It's like, where is that boat? Where'd the boat go? But not Jesus. Jesus stood his ground, and he faces the madman, undaunted, unafraid. He stands there and he looks at him and he talks to his troubled soul, and he changes him. He cleanses him. He turns his life around. And by his very presence, he shows him and us. It doesn't have to be that way. Preacher David Lose points out that it appeared, and this is something so subtle that I had missed this, but it appears that Jesus actually sought him out. How easy it is to overlook this odd story of eventual healing. You know, there's so much that's odd in that. We could spend weeks here on every single detail, but let's look at this. That whole encounter between Jesus and this lost man in his tombs is the result of a nearly inexplicable and totally unnecessary detour. This larger scene is set in motion by Jesus' decision to cross to the other side of the lake, to that foreign place. Luke's narration makes it sound so incredibly happenstance. Oh, one day Jesus just got in a boat with his disciples and he says, well, let's go aside to the other side of the lake. No rationale, like pressing crowds or the need for rest. There's not a shortcut to some ultimate destination. There's no obvious plan or purpose that's made apparent, just a desire to cross from the familiar to the unfamiliar, to the known side of the countryside of Capernaum and Galilee, to the land of the Gerasenes, and to this man, which may mean this, and this is just so subtle, that Jesus' whole point with this detour is to seek out this one man and to rescue him from his sad state and to return him to life. Now, while this may seem utterly unnecessary to us, it is absolutely necessary, even crucial, to Jesus and to his mission. It's why he came to us. He tells us why he came. He says, well, I've come to bring good news to the poor, to proclaim liberty to the captives, recovery of sight to the blind, and to let the oppressed, like this man, go free. And here is the thing. If you don't hear anything else to this, hear this today. Jesus is still doing it. He's still going out of his way. He's still taking the long route, still crossing boundaries, still daring to meet us in the middle of our tombs in order to heal and restore us. To put it another way, if Jesus goes this far out of his way to encounter this one man, what will keep him from seeking us out, from meeting us where we are and accepting us as we are? We're inviting us to come out of our tombs, from daring us to live life in abundance, from bidding us to share the news of what has been done for us. The answer, in short, is nothing. Nothing will keep Jesus from reaching out to us, finding us, accepting us, releasing us, calling us, loving us. Nothing. You know, a week like this where the world seems a little crazy, a little topsy-turvy, a little frightening, a little berserkly bad, threat of World War III, just to say it, targeting of the poor, disregard for human life. The good news that Jesus proclaims to us is it doesn't have to be that way. Our hearts do know that it is possible. A more beautiful world? Yeah. A more balanced way of living? Yeah. A deeper connection with all things alive and yet to be born? Sure. An imagination to accomplish what seems to be impossible? You got it. We all belong. We are all worthy of God's attention and care. Christ has come and has actually sought us out to enfold us in God's love. Now, I just want to say a word about our event this past Friday. You know that we were gathered, and many of us had fun putting together a feast, thanks to Lynn's organization. We had a wonderful feast, but we did it by way of supporting Lenore and her family, who we love. So the marvelous thing is that we are supporting Lenore to go on a pilgrimage to Ireland. You know, being on a pilgrimage is, it occurs to me, a lot like what Jesus just did. You go to an unknown place you haven't been before, but you go specifically to reach out and bless and even learn from those in the foreign place. Lenore isn't here today, but when she comes back, you can give her 4, what? She's downstairs. Oh, okay. Then you remind her that when she comes back, we want to hear from her. Just of adventures, but we want to hear how God has used her as God promises he will. Maybe she will be the one that Jesus sends back to us. We are her peeps. We are his peeps. Maybe she's the one to evangelize us into that vast adventure of God's love for us all. Amen.